Teo thinks he's some kind of mastermind with the mind games and all that, but I think he's mad as a box of frogs. He was like that with me. He was saying all sorts of crazy stuff to try and get at me.
Teofimo Lopez versus Shakur Stevenson is taking place this weekend, and we've got none other than Josh Taylor in with us to speak through the fight and break down where this is going to be won and lost. Josh, how are you doing?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. Yourself?
Yeah, not bad, not bad. Look, I'm going to jump straight into it. Things have started to spice up a little bit in the build-up to this fight now. Teofimo is saying that he's going to mentally break Shakur Stevenson on the weekend. Do you think there's a world in which Teo can mentally break Shakur?
No, I don't think so. I think Teo thinks he's some kind of mastermind with the mind games and all that, but I think he's mad as a box of frogs. But no, I don't think he's going to be able to break him, no.
Well, what do you think is Johnny Nelson, Josh? And what do you think his strengths and weaknesses are for Teofimo? You've been in there with him.
Teo, I think Teo's his athleticism is quite good. You know, he's quite athletic and quite agile and stuff. So he's quite good with that. But in all honesty, like with my fight with him, my legs went after 4 rounds because I couldn't do any kind of running at all for the lead up to that fight. By the time I got to New York, I never slept properly for 2 weeks. I was in the middle of a hotel, in the middle of Times Square and stuff like that. So I never really got proper sleep and proper rest. So after 4 rounds, my sort of legs started going. But for the first 5, 6, it was quite easy, to be honest. It was quite comfortable. But then obviously the legs go, and as you know yourself, Johnny, once your legs go, everything else goes after that, you know. So after my legs went, it was just a case of like just trying to stay in there and sort of maybe try and catch him as a shot as he came in, because he was quite open as he was coming in, and you could see his shots coming from distance. But obviously my legs weren't underneath me and they just weren't working properly, so I couldn't get out the road properly. So yeah, he was quite sort of predictable in the way he was coming forward and stuff. So I can't see him doing that. But yeah, I think it's going to be quite a tactical match. I actually think Shakur will be a bit more cute.
You said at the start of that, which I picked up on, was Teo is as mad as a box of frogs. He's been labelled that quite a few times, and we've kind of seen in previous fights in the build-up to the Times Square fight, he was very animated and he almost sold the show a lot on his own. He said that he feels a lot more calm and a lot more still in the build-up to this fight. Do you think he needs that kind of chaotic energy and that hunger to bring out the best of him? And do you think it's almost worrying that he isn't showing those signs yet?
No, I think it's probably better for him. I think it's better for him. I think he's been quite sort of mentally fragile over the years. We've saw it. But yeah, I think him being a bit more calm and a bit more poised and relaxed would probably put him in good stead, I reckon.
You're saying mentally fragile there. I know before you boxed him yourself, you were saying that you thought that he was mentally weak in the build-up to that fight. Do you think when it switches into the big occasion that he has a way to kind of get through it and almost put on the show, but when the occasion maybe isn't so big, then that's when he mentally kind of lapses in maybe concentration or focus or hunger for
possibly
a fight?
I don't know. Possibly I don't know what he's like mentally, but I just thought on the lead up to my fight and stuff, he was sort of all over the place. And then during the fight, it was actually quite predictable coming forward. You know, it was quite easy to sort of pick off for the first 5, 6 rounds. Obviously, until my legs went underneath me, but that was due to the injury that I picked up with my snapping my plantar fascia tendon on my heel. I wasn't able to do any kind of sort of conditioning on my legs and on my feet. I wasn't able to do any kind of running and jumping around and circuit training, plyometric training, all that kind of stuff until maybe about 5 weeks before the fight. I was only able to start doing a little bit of plyometric work. I wasn't even able to really run. I was only able to do little sort of interval runs really. I couldn't do any sort of groundwork or leg work for that fight. So that was the reason why my legs went. But up until my legs did go, it was actually quite comfortable. And I was starting to get into a rhythm of the fight, but then obviously the legs went, so then it all fell apart after that, fell to bits.
Josh, do you rate Shakur? And if you do, how much do you rate him?
Yeah, he's very good. He's very smart. He's very technical as well. You know, he's quite sound defensively as well. He's quite good with defence and moving off the ropes and using his feet and his boxing IQ to keep his opponents sort of at bay and at the end of his range and fight his kind of fight, which is kind of slowing the pace down and being a more of a technical fight. So yeah, I think he's a very good operator, high class operator. He's
Before
obviously in the gym with Terence Crawford and being mentored with him and all that as well. So yeah, I think he's a very good fighter.
Before we kind of break this fight down more tactically, we mentioned there about Shakur Stevenson and Teo and the mind games going into this fight. I mentioned at the top of the show and the fact that Teo is saying that he wants to make Shakur quit in the ring. And I think he's referencing the fact that there was a video that went out in 2025 of Shakur Stevenson kind of pulling himself out of sparring with Devin Haney. And he's referencing that now, saying, you quit in sparring, I'm going to make you quit in the ring. Do you think there's anything that can be taken from a moment like that from sparring?
Not really, because kind of sparring is sparring. I mean, a couple of times I used to chuck the dummy out in sparring and stuff, but because I was trying to practice stuff and I wasn't able to get it right, and it's only practice and sparring. Do you know what I mean? You're not there to get the end result. You're practicing stuff for the lead up to the fight. So sparring is just sparring, really. So I can't really take too much from that. But in another sense, you kind of can when it becomes two prospects that are coming through that might end up fighting later on, each other later on. So then that's a different scenario because the two of them will be competing against each other because there might be a potential the two of them might end up fighting. So you never know. So with having said that, there might be a little bit of mind games there because the two of them will have wanted to get one up on the other in them sparring sessions.
I'd probably kind of agree with you, Josh, in regards to sparring, and Teofimo were trying to grab at anything, any straws, to try and get a mental edge over Shakur.
Yeah.
And as you say, you're sparring, you might have the heavy gloves on, you might have done a heavy session before that. There's a lot of things that are very different from being in a fight scenario. I suppose it's a sign of desperation. He needs something. I know you mentioned earlier on, it might be better that Teofimo's a lot calmer. I actually think he's one of those fighters that need a riot. He needs some kind of back and forth. He needs that to lift himself up. And if he doesn't get that, then that's where we worry. So if he's being uncomfortably quiet right now, maybe that's him thinking, wow, maybe this is it.
Part. Yeah, because I can relate to that because I was kind of like that myself. I kind of needed to get the edge about the bit between the teeth with the opponent to get the sort of angriness and the sort of dislike for that opponent or just the person, so I could train towards that and have that grip between my teeth. You know what I mean? Like, because you want to go in there and do a real number on your opponents. You know, so I used to have to get like that and get my mentality into a sort of vicious dark place to get that out and come out of me.
Yeah.
So I can kind of imagine that. Yeah.
I feel like he's starting to do little bits because even you mentioned it before about Terence Crawford, the fact that he's been in camp with Shakur Stevenson. They obviously have a very close relationship, and Teo's been using that, saying, you know, Terence Crawford is just sending his little guy to come and fight me, and all this stuff, just winding him up, saying those little comments that will just kind of get him to get a little bit frustrated. Do you think that's almost a tactical ploy? The fact that he's almost trying to wind Shakur up so much to get him to bring the fight to him, because then that's when Teofimo is at his best with his counter-punching and when the fight's been brought to him. Do you think that's almost a tactical ploy?
Maybe, but then again, it's tongue-in-cheek, you know. People say things to try and get a bite of you, but again, it's maybe just to sell the fight a little bit more as well. These guys, they're world-class operators, you know, they're the top-tier level, so the mind games and stuff like that don't really work. You're there. You're a top consummate professional. You're top athlete. You know what I mean. So these mind games don't really work. You know, unless you say something maybe a little bit personal that can maybe wind each other up, which gets somebody's bit between the teeth or make them a bit angry. You know, so yeah, there's maybe a little bit of that, and if it gets a little bit personal, then it can maybe work. But in terms of just saying things like that to wind them up, I don't think that'll work with the likes of Shakur and stuff.
Yeah, I think a big thing for Teo is kind of keeping that composure during the fight, or not getting frustrated, because we've seen before with Jermaine Ortiz, for example, he moved very well laterally, and Teo struggled with that, and the frustrations came out. And I think that he could slip into a similar thing with Shakur. If Shakur sticks to that game plan and fights his fight, Teo could end up getting quite frustrated, do you think?
See, I'm not sure, because I don't think Shakur doesn't really move around an awful lot. He kind of stays there and he's kind of like he's almost like a counter puncher, but he kind of stays and holds his feet and moves just enough to keep sort of just out of distance, and then one step and he's in distance. So he doesn't really move around too much. Whereas Teo's all over the place and kind of jumps in a little bit, and he can kind of tell when he's going to come, and that's just through my personal experience with him. I could see when he was coming, but I never had my legs underneath me to get out of the way or move and stuff. So he's he can see what he's going to do before he does it. He shows what he's going to do. Whereas Shakur is a little bit more cute and a little bit more of a counter fighter as well. So that might play into Shakur's hands with him if Teo does end up being a little bit more aggressive. It'll play into Shakur's hands, I reckon.
Yeah, and the law of the jungle is usually with a fighter, what you do is you've got to try and say something to make him deviate from his game plan. So if he deviates from his game plan, then he works your game plan. So you've got to say something personal to upset him, or talk in such a braggadocious way or a cowardly way, but you want them to do something out of character, so to make you feel more comfortable. And I think that's probably what you're seeing Teofimo do, Josh.
Yeah, well, he's like that. And he was like that with me. He was saying all sorts of crazy stuff to try and get at me, but it didn't really bother me because it doesn't bother me. I like to wind people up and get wound up because it makes me work more. It makes me click more. When I'm wound up, that gets me going, and I'm up for that rather than being calm and relaxed. I'm better I'm better in the fire than outside the fire. So that didn't really work for me. If he's trying to wind me up, that's perfect. It plays into my hands. But with folks like Shakur, who are a little bit more calm and stuff like that, it might work a little bit more. But I can't see it happening because Shakur's in a good camp with Terence and seen all the stuff that goes on in the camp with Terence and his opponents and stuff. So I can't really see it happening. But you never know. You just need to see how the mental toughness is with Shakur and what he's like with people who try to wind him up. I don't know him personally, so I don't really know how the winding up tactics will work with him. Is he a bit precious? Is he a bit sort of tries to look good on all that kind of stuff, and his reputation is a bit precious with that kind of stuff? You don't know. So if he is like that, that might work in Teo's hands with him saying stuff and Shakur biting. But I've not really seen Shakur actually biting much and stuff. He's kind of just like okay and kind of laid back. So I can't really see it working.
Yeah, he lets a lot of stuff wash over him. That sort of stuff doesn't let it rattle him too much. We've mentioned Terence Crawford quite a few times. Obviously, being around someone like that is instrumental. Just picking up nuggets of information or tweaking form in certain areas. Yes. How important do you think having someone like Terence is there, and how much do you think he can actually pick up off him leading up to this fight?
Yeah, I think it's greatly important and great for his development. Just being around Terence and see how he conducts things and what his mentality is like around things like press conferences and up close and personal with his opponent before the fight and stuff like that. So Shakur seeing that and watching how Terence dealt with it and stuff like that, Shakur will take that into well, hopefully takes in and digests it and sees how Terence dealt with it, and he tries to implement the same kind of tactics and the same kind of mentality. So I think it's great for him. He couldn't be in a better place really to learn. So I think it's brilliant that he's in that position.
In terms of Shakur himself, he gets a lot of criticism over the years for having, quote, a boring style. People don't necessarily buy into his style. He obviously fought Cepeda last time out, and he got a lot of praise for the way that he brought the fight, and he was walking him down, he was fighting on the inside, and people liked that style for him. Do you think that he will try and do that style again because of the love he almost got? And do you think that's a almost risky way of fighting against someone like Teo?
I don't know. I mean, it obviously depends on what his tactics are going to be coming into the fight and how the way he wants to implement his game plan. So, me personally, I think he would. Don't think he'll change much. I think he'll just be patient, a bit more patient, and do a bit more of what he's known for, but just be patient and be that kind of boring, kind of technical fighter kind of style. Because that I think will play into Shakur's hands, and
I think
that will wind Teo up because Teo's kind of needs that kind of people coming at him too. So because Teo's quite good defensively with shoulder roll and all that kind of stuff. So I think with Shakur being a bit more patient, I think that'll play into his hands rather than Teo's.
I'd have to agree with you, Josh. I think for Shakur to stick to his style, the success that's got him, to bow to public pressure, that's when you box out of character. That's when you do things that you wouldn't normally do, and that's where you end up kicking yourself. So we can take the pressure. And being in the gym with Terence and everybody, Terence is very matter of fact when you're out on the street, but when it comes down to business, he gets the job done. So to be pressured by people that don't do it, I think it'd be silly to make that happen. I don't think that would be his style. So I agree with you, definitely, Josh.
Josh, interestingly,
I don't think he's going to change his style too much because he's fought that way for so long. You know, this kind of sort of half, almost like Floyd kind of here, and keeping his distance and boxing nice behind his jab. So I can't see him then all of a sudden go doing this and trying to walk him down, because then that plays into Teal's hands. So I think he's just going to do much more of the same. I agree with Johnny on that one.
People are talking about the weight because obviously Shakur will be stepping up to Teo. Do you think there's much in that, or do you think this is really just Shakur filling out naturally? Do you think there's anything in the kind of weight and him stepping up?
Not really. I mean, it's only £5, you know, so it's not much at all, really. Teo might be a little bit bigger and stronger. Well, they will be a little bit stronger, but I can't see it being that much of an issue unless Shakur makes it more of a physical fight, more in close, and tries to fight a bit more and wrestle and all that. But that's not Shakur's style, so I don't think it's going to kind of go that way. So I don't think that'll be an issue unless Teo makes it more of a dogfight. Then it might be a bit more of a physical fight for Shakur, but I don't think that will be an issue, to be honest.
What is Teofimo's punch power like? Is it single shots or is it kind of combinations from your experience of sharing the ring with him?
It's not really got much power, to be honest. He's quite strong physically, but I mean, he hit me with some big shots and I just walked through them. Like, he didn't really hurt me at all, you know, so I never felt his power at all. I think I've been in with a lot bigger punchers that I've boxed in my pro game, so I don't think the punch power will be an issue. Maybe the physical strength, maybe a little bit, but apart from that, no, I don't think his punch power, the punching will be a problem for Shakur, to be honest. I think he also spars with Terence and things like that, so he'll be used to sparring with bigger guys as well. So I don't think the punch power will be an issue.
Sparring with Terence isn't bad prep, is it? Look, one of the other things that's kind of come out recently was Teo was doing a podcast and he was talking about taking opportunities that arise. People were alluding to the fact he was talking about illegal blows, and if the opportunity arose, he was going to take them. He clarified he didn't mean that he wasn't going to, hit below the belt or anything.
Well, you're never going to admit to that, are you?
No, but it was almost alluding to, because the way that Shakur moves defensively, he was saying that, the opportunity of the way that his body moved, he might, get the kidneys, or he might get somewhere like that.
Well,
What do you kind of make of the way that he's alluding to?
Yeah, I agree with that. It might be a dirty tactic, but at the end of the day, it's still a fight. And if he's showing his back, it's there to be hit. Take it. I mean, the only thing that the ref can do is stop and give you a warning and say, don't hit in the kidneys or don't hit here. And you go, right, okay. But by that point, the damage is already done. You've hit him there, the damage is already done. So, why not? It's a fight. You can only get a warning. If he starts doing it intentionally and keeps doing it, then disqualify him because he's intentionally hitting round the back and stuff like that. So if it is there and he's showing it, then take it. And if the ref doesn't say nothing, keep doing it.
I think it's a statement of intent.
Why not?
because you say that you're basically saying either tell him to stand there and fight in front of me, or this is what I'm going to do. So you can say you're kind of preempting. Well, I did say, if he's doing this, it's kind of because to say things like that are probably intentional. Just in case it's going to happen, it's an intention. So if he's going to fight dirty, he can't admit to it, can he? But he's going to say if the opportunity arises, it's not my fault. I suppose it's like getting into a fight and you put the referee under pressure, saying don't let him grab referee before he's actually gone onto it. So it's trying to make someone try and fight in a character that he's not used to doing.
Yeah. Do you think he's also trying to?
Then on the same hand, on the other hand, the Teo can also say to him, well, if he's doing this, maybe they're kind of shell and he's shown me his back, then he's shown me it, so hit him, so I'd just see if he does that and then he gets a warning, then right, okay, I'll not hit him there. But if he's showing you in his back and kind of tucking up, it's kind of shying away, so what else are you meant to hit, really?
So that's for the referee to put pressure under Shakur. That's what he's doing, or either side of him. That's for the referee to put pressure on the fighter.
Do you think he's also using it in a way to get into Shakur's head and make him think about changing or adapting the way that he is defensively, and almost toying with his mind that Shakur's thinking, oh, right, well, I now can't do that because he's going to try and go for that.
Possibly.
Do you think there's anything tactically he's trying to get in his head for?
Yeah, possibly. That's what I'm thinking. He's maybe saying, well, if he's giving me that sort of Philly shell look and turning and showing me his back, I'm going to hit him. So the referee, he's showing me his back, hit him, make sure he doesn't turn his back. So that's maybe what he's trying to do to make him change his style and not get away with doing that kind of tuck up Philly's shell defence. So maybe, possibly.
I remember Harold Graham fighting Mike McCallum for the world title, and Mike McCallum said to Harold Graham before the fight, "Don't run, and I'll show you who's the best fighter." And so Harold foolishly thought, "I won't run. I'll show you what I can do. I'm not a fancy Dan." And he stood there and fought Mike McCallum's fight and lost. So this is what fighters do. You've got to try and get into the head of your opponent to cajole them into your style of fight.
Yeah, I was kind of thinking whether he was going down the Golovkin route of hitting the hips and trying to slow down Teofimo as well.
That could happen. All the unorthodox shots that could happen. You hit him in the unorthodox places, in the hip, on the shoulder, on the neck, on the side of the neck. These are shots that you're not normally getting hit with in the gym. But so when it happens in a fight, you want to complain to say, oh, that's not right. So that's a tactic. But does he have the ability to do that? What do you think, Josh? You think he's got the ability to play that game?
If I think Shakur's a little bit more smart than that, yeah. So if he does start doing that sort of Philly sort of shell defence and Teal's hitting him round the back, I think maybe we'll go, look, he's hitting me round the back. He's intentionally hitting me in the back. But then Teo can flip that round and say, well, look, he's shelling up and turning round. Where else am I meant to hit him? So it can kind of swing in roundabouts, I think, that tactic, really.
Mm-hmm. One of the things with Teo that people talk about as well is his gas tank. And I know in the Kambosos fight, he had an issue with his lung and he was struggling with breathing and things like that. I know he's had plenty of fights since then. But do you think that could still be an issue for him, especially against Shakur Stevenson? Do you think he will struggle with the gas tank at all?
I'm not too sure because he seems really fit and stuff. So, but he doesn't really fight an awful high pace either. And then neither does Shakur. Shakur likes to slowly pace down and make you box at his pace. So I can't see it being much of an issue with that, because Shakur likes to fight at a kind of slower, kind of more technical pace. So I don't think that will be an issue unless it ends up being a dog fight. Then I actually think it will probably favour Teal.
Yeah, well, because the reason I bring it up was because DAZN always do that on the ground, when they go into camp and they have like a little preview of the fighters. And one of the things his team just kept saying to him was like, bring the pace, it's all about the pace. Teo can't handle the pace.
Pace will be key. You take the pace away from a fighter, you've got him zapped after 4 rounds, and after 5 rounds he's panicking, after 6 rounds he's drowning.
What's the pace
I don't think any of the two of them fight a particularly high pace, the two of them, to be honest. So, I can't see that really being an option. I don't think that's going to be the case. The two of them kind of fight at kind of slowish kind of pace.
What would be your advice to Shakur going into the ring against Teofimo Lopez, kind of having been there, done that, shared the ring with him? What's the top 3 kind of secrets to beating Teofimo Lopez?
I think, I don't think he really needs to change much, Shakur. Teo actually doesn't like it when you stand off on me, because then Teo's quite a good counter puncher. So Teo then has to then push you, which he's not great at. He's better when you're pushing him. So I think Shakur doesn't really need to change that much. I think he just needs to keep his patience and keep his smart, sort of slow pace, kind of slick boxing. I think that'll play into his hands more than Teo having to come forward. So I don't think he has to change too much.
This is a big step up and a big statement for Shakur Stevenson. And if he does win this fight against Teo, does he become the undisputed face of boxing? Because everyone's saying that if he ticks this one off, that's it. It's confirmed. He will take over as the undisputed face of boxing. What do you think, Josh?
No, I don't think so. You need to go and win the titles to do that, So, no, I don't think so. I think he then becomes the face of the 140 division if he does do it. But no, I don't think he becomes the face of boxing then. No.
Yeah, I think it puts him on the path to try and collect those chips, but to call this fight that fight, that's not the fight. It's just, and plus it's the fashion of the win.
Yeah.
So it's not just about, it's the fashion of the win to put him on that path of the conversation. But I don't think this is the fight to crown him with that crown.
Josh, what would you want to see Shakur do next? Because he's already talking about potentially doing a fight with Conor Benn at a catchweight. Would you like to see that sort of fight next?
Yeah, why not? I mean, obviously, if it makes money, it makes sense, So I think Conor Benn would be a little bit too much for him, a little bit too big and too strong for him. Having said that, I think Shakur has got the skills to nullify him, but maybe not quite much the strength and the power of Conor, because Conor is a big, strong lad. So it would be an interesting one, but I could see Conor winning that one, just due to natural size.
Yeah. On the flip side, Teo has been talking about Devin Haney. He was saying that before the Brian Norman Jr. fight that he didn't want Devin because he didn't have the traction or the hype that associated with a big fight. He said after the Brian Norman fight that he now has that traction and that he'd be interested in a fight. Would you like to see a Teo and Devin Haney fight?
Yeah, I think that would be a good fight, to be honest. Again, I think Haney wins that. Too technical, too smart and patient. So I think Haney wins that one, to be honest. I think Haney wins that one quite comfortably, to be fair.
So it's good to have a dance partner too. You're talking Haney, you're talking Conor Benn. These are fights where you can't nail a winner on, but they're good competitive fights on paper anyway. Yeah. So it's always good to be in that position. So he's in a great position, but he's got to get through. He's got to get through Saturday night first.
Before we let you go, Josh, just one more for you. Ryan Garcia is going to be challenging Mario Barrios for the WBC belt. What do you think of that as a matchup?
Yeah, I think it's quite a good matchup. Certainly got the makeups to be an exciting fight. Mario Barrios obviously comes and brings the heat, and obviously Garcia's got that magic left hook and the hand speed. So yeah, I think that's got the makings to be a great fight. I'd probably edge just towards Garcia a little bit, just because of the hand speed and the sharpness, I think. But yeah, that's got the makings to be a cracking fight. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it seems like Conor Benn's in all the conversations because obviously Ryan Garcia, he's potentially fighting him afterwards. Do you think that would be a good fight as well?
I think it would be a great fight, but I think Conor's going to struggle to get back down to 147. To be fair, I think he's put on so much size and strength and muscle and stuff. I think that he might struggle to get back down to 147 comfortably. So I can't see him maybe coming back down to 147. I think he'll maybe go to 154. I think he'll maybe go to 154, Conor, but you never know. But I think he's maybe a little bit too big for 147 now. You never know, but yeah, I think that would be a good fight if it had happened, though. I think it would be a very good fight if it had happened.
Isn't it amazing to see where Conor Benn was 2 or 3 years ago now, the fights you're talking about now, and I suppose UK public, and I like the fact that Josh is giving props to say I think he'd win that fight, I think it'd be a good one. He's giving props where props are due, and I think with such a cracking couple of fights against Junior, he's put his stock up there worldwide. So, and actually I like how you commend and give props where it was well deserved. So nice one, Josh.
Well,
yeah, absolutely, and then obviously Conor does bring the fight. You know, Conor. I don't think that you ever see a Conor Benn fight when he just sits back and boxes. You know, he was a little bit more patient against Eubank the second time, but even then he still brought it a little bit, didn't he? And then in the end he got the stoppage. So yeah, he's always in a good fight, Conor.
Do you think Conor gets the props he deserves? Because I know after the Chris Eubank Jr., the rematch, instead of people saying Conor boxed well, they were all talking about Eubank, you know, being a bit shot from the first fight. Do you think Conor got the appreciation he deserved after that fight?
Yeah, I think he did. Yeah, I think he did in the end. But at the same, but when people are saying that, I do kind of genuinely agree with it a little bit. Chris wasn't quite the same and kind of at the end and stuff. But yeah, I think he does get his props. I mean, he had 2 great fights against Eubank, you know. So and they were cracking fights, the 2 of them. So yeah, I think he does. But he's just yet to prove himself against proper world class talent.
Yeah, I'd agree. The first one used brawn, the second one used brain. So you've got to. He's rounded. He's grown. He's growing on everybody.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, definitely. He just needs to the chance to prove it against one of these guys now. So yeah, I think he's in a good place, Conor.
Well, Josh, just to finish, I don't think I actually asked for your prediction for Teofimo Lopez versus Shakur Stevenson. So how do you actually think the fight will unfold, and what will the result be on Saturday night?
I think a Shakur points. I think he's going to keep it the way. I think he's just going to kind of box the way he always does, keeps the pace slow and patient, which plays into his hands because Teo can't really keep off you. I've never seen that kind of movement from Teo. He's just moving around and waiting and being patient. He always eventually just starts coming forward. So I think that plays into Shakur's hands, and I can see Shakur kind of outboxing him quite comfortably, to be fair, in the end. I think, well, just my opinion anyway.
Do you think the only way Teo wins it is by stoppage? Because, I mean, Shakur professionally has probably only lost about under 10 rounds professionally. Do you think the only way he could win is stoppage?
No, you never know. I mean, we might see the similar thing with Teo here, what we saw with Conor Benn in the second fight, actually showing some patience and a bit of boxing. So you never know, but I just think if it comes down to a boxing match and the way the two of their natures are, and from having watching the 2 of them, I think that Teo will eventually revert back to his old self, which will eventually start coming forward and jumping in and stuff. So I can see quite a comfortable win for Shakur, to be honest, in the end.
Well, not long until we find out. So thank you, Josh, for joining us. Really appreciate the time.
Nice one, Josh.
Yep, thanks for having me on, guys. Cheers.
And if you enjoyed this episode of The Hook, make sure you head over to Daily Mail Football to check out the pitch. You can click it on this link here.